A major diplomatic ripple is spreading around the world, ignited by the French president's announcement that France will officially recognize Palestine as a state. And this bold move, which could be formalized at the UN General Assembly in September, sparked an immediate and sharp rebuke from Israel, setting up a diplomatic face-off. Macron declaring that France will officially recognize Palestine as a state puts him on a direct collision course with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The announcement makes France the biggest Western power to recognize Palestine so far. Over 140 countries already recognize a Palestinian state, including more than a dozen in Europe.
I believe in the future of the two-state solution as the foundation of a regional security architecture that will allow Israel to live in peace and security with its neighbors. I believe in the need to unite our voices in Paris, London, and everywhere else to recognize a Palestinian state and initiate this political dynamic, which is the only one consistent with a perspective of peace.
The reaction from Tel Aviv has been swift and furious. The Israeli Prime Minister wasted no time in condemning Macron's decision, calling it a grave mistake. He posted on X, "Such a move rewards terror and risks creating another Iranian proxy, just as Gaza became." He termed the Palestinian state in these conditions as a launch pad to attack Israel. Meanwhile, Gideon Sar has also hit out at Macron. Sar said President Macron cannot provide security to Israel. He took a hit at the French president, saying he hoped he succeeded in doing so on the streets of Paris. The opposition leader, Yair Lapid, meanwhile, said on X, "It's time Israel put a clear proposal on the table to end the war and get the hostages back home." Reactions worldwide highlighting a deeply divided international landscape on the issue. On one side, the Palestinian Authority has warmly welcomed France's decision. Hamas has also welcomed the move as a positive step. In Europe, the sentiment appears to be shifting. Just days before France's announcement, in fact, several European countries, including Britain, alongside France and others, condemned Israel's restrictions on aid shipments into Gaza and the killings of Palestinians seeking food. The British Prime Minister has indicated that a ceasefire would put Europe on a path to the recognition of a Palestinian state and a two-state solution. And this suggests a growing momentum among some European nations, perhaps towards recognition. France's announcement also comes on the heels of the US cutting short the Gaza ceasefire talks in Qatar, citing a lack of good faith from Hamas, which the group has vehemently denied. Canada's Prime Minister, meanwhile, has also tweeted out in support of a two-state solution, saying that the country will be pushing forth the agenda at an upcoming UN high-level conference on the two-state solution in New York next week. And as France takes that firm stance for Palestinian statehood, Israelis and Palestinians have reacted strongly to that. Listen in to these reactions.
The decision that France talked about yesterday with regards to us, we wish to have a Palestinian state, and the decision that France has taken is a bold decision. However, will other countries that control the world accept this brave decision? We want every person to call on every nation, every country. If France has given us the decision, it's a brave decision. It must rally and mobilize on this matter and not be alone in this picture.
I think that is a real slap in the face to Israel and the victims of October 7th. I think that is the easy thing to do. I think it's easy to put the blame on Israel and say, oh, we reward this act of terrorism with a Palestinian state, and maybe that is some lip service for his voters.
And let's just break this down with further perspectives from the former German ambassador to the NATO. Thank you very much for being here. I have to begin by asking you for your reaction to what's playing out. This, of course, is a major announcement. It has resulted in that diplomatic standoff between the two sides. But at the same time, we're looking at perhaps a momentum among European countries to go in this direction. What do you make of that?
I don't think a momentum within Europe. I've doubts, strong doubts. Look at, for example, my compatriots in Germany. They have clearly said today they will not follow the French step, nor the British will do so. But for me, it would be helpful if we got real progress towards the two-state solution we have been defending in the past. And we were near to a solution 25, 30 years ago. Now we are far away from, let's say, a two-state solution, as Israel refused it totally. And therefore, please, would it be really helpful, such a recognition of Palestine now? 147 out of 193 member states of the UN have done so. France is following it in order to raise pressure on Israel. Yes. But the irony again is Hamas has been congratulating France to that step, and Hamas has always refused the two-state solution. They have never agreed to it. And therefore, the French do something which may theoretically be helpful, but in line really, what I would like to see is more pressure on Israel with regard to the treatment of the Palestinians in Gaza and with regard to the treatment of the occupied territories. Perhaps this could be helpful towards a new step in the direction of a suspension of the association agreement between Israel and the EU. This could be, let's say, perhaps more helpful executing a certain pressure. But helpful towards a two-state solution, I've real doubts, because I see a diminished Palestinian authority in the occupied territories. I see, let's say, no progress insofar they have a territory which is, let's say, diminished in comparison that of, let's say, the end of the 90s. Where is real progress, frankly spoken?
Right. So that is your view and your expectation in a way. Where do you see things going, though, at this point? And also, what do you see playing out at the United Nations?
What I would like to see is, first of all, a real step towards the release of the hostages and to give, let's say, a certain future at least to Gaza again, to people in Gaza. Let's say a humanitarian solution. I don't see it up till now. Hamas is refusing, Israel is not able, let's say, to reach it. What can do the United Nations insofar? United Nations are to some extent, let's say, dependent on the willingness of, let's say, key member states. As the US, Whitcock has been going back to the US, reflecting about solutions for Gaza, perhaps a humanitarian corridor or something like this going on, but it's not real progress. And the second step, really, if we were able to come back to a real two-state solution, perhaps in a confederation with Jordan, we would be back at the end of the 90s, Rabin's time, and then get a real solution. But I don't see the government of Netanyahu going forward towards such a solution. I regret deeply.
We're leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much for being here.
Pleasure as always.